Okay, welcome back. All right, so first thing we do on every turn, obviously we start from the top. And I'm going to go ahead and use the rule book to guide us at the start here. So we'll just go through it step by step. So it says, take the units from the calendar space for the current day and place them in their respective unit boxes. Okay, so these are the Allied reserves, and we'll put them there. And then I like to put them by type. Now there's several ways to tell what type. The colors obviously help. The banners at the top, those colors. But once again, it's this is the 424th Army Group, the 106th Division. So the division is always the middle number. And then the right number, which is in Roman numerals, is the corps. That's sort of important for when you're dealing with, so for example, this one says 7th Armored Division. That is specifically referring to a division with the number 7 in the middle of those chits. So, and then you'll have a different one that says corps on it. So that's for all the units that are of the 12th Corps. It doesn't matter what division they're a part of. So, it'll get intuitive as time goes on, but in the beginning it's a little confusing. And once again, there's that player aid that explains to you how to read those cards. Highly recommend it. And anyways, let's keep doing this step. And then the Germans have a reserve unit, so we put that in the reserve unit for the Germans. Okay? What's the goal of the game? The goal of the game is to score points. There are victory conditions, I think, starting on December 20th. And you have to score so many points, and if you do, you win. I think I can show it to you right here. Yeah, so starting on the December 20th, you can see here, if you have greater than 40 victory points, you win. If you have less than 11, you lose. So there's sort of like this sandwich happening, and you don't want to be too low. Obviously, you want to win, but if you don't win, as long as you still at least have to be over a certain threshold. And that threshold, of course, gets tougher and tougher as it goes. So with that said, how do we score points? Well, you can see here that there's victory points for taking certain cities. We get a lot of points for crossing the Meuse. Just crossing one unit across the Meuse gets you 10 points. And everything you need to know is written right there. So you can see that if we hold a victory point town, you get the victory point value. First German across the Meuse gets you 10. Every 2 Allied units that we completely eliminate gives us 1 point. The West Wall position, if it's held by the Allies after December 18th, we lose 5 points. If we relieve Vonderheit, which is that special unit, that's 1 point. And then every German infantry that exits is worth 1 point, and every German mechanized unit that exits the point, I'm sorry, it's the number of points for the unit. You get a victory point. So and then I've never exited the map, so we're going to look that up together if I ever get there. Exiting the map requires crossing the Meuse, just so you understand. So it's not an early game thing. Okay, so we did that. We put out the reserve units, and you can see here there is a deployment step that doesn't happen until turn 18. And then we would release the German OKW reserve if conditions have been met. And it does tell you where in the rulebook to read those conditions. I'm going to save you the trouble. Those conditions don't get met until somebody crosses the Meuse. But it is nice, though, that you can flip to 7.4. So I guess I'm not saving you the trouble. My apologies. Just trying to show how it links things. So here you can see the 7.4 is the German OKW, and then it says, you know, it's not attached to a specific army. It may be deployed. Becomes available to you during the reserve phase if at least one German unit is in a hex adjacent to, so you don't even have to cross the Meuse River, you just have to be adjacent to it, and able to trace supply back, which we haven't talked about that, but that's a tall order. When this first occurs, we must stop and then do all this, okay? We're not there yet, so we're not going to worry about that. Next is the card prep phase. So the card prep has, if I pick this up, it explains step by step here what you need to do. First thing you do is you always have the primary cards. These cards that say primary on them, this one does not. So I'm going to take that out. Let me check to make sure I'm... All right. Okay. So these cards always say primary. They are always going to be in your draw pile, okay? So if they were so you have these discard piles. So let's say you played a turn and you played, you know, all your cards and they're here in the discard pile. Well, at the start of your day, everything that comes from this discard pile goes into your draw pile every day. So you're always going to get these cards in your draw pile. So let's say that we played some cards and these supplemental cards ended up there. Well, what happens is you actually shuffle what's left and then you draw your cards into this pile. And after you draw your cards, then and only then do these become back into the deck. So whatever supplemental cards we play on December 16th, it's going to be impossible to see them on December 17th because they won't be available to us again until December 18th. Does that make sense? So these supplemental cards are, there's going to be like a whole day in between that we're not going to get to use them. So that's, how important is that to know right now? It's not super duper important, but I'm just trying to help you to understand that if you were to read all of this, it's got a lot of stuff about, okay, take this discard pile and do this, but take that discard pile and don't do anything until then, you know. So it's just it's more complicated than it looks. But once you do it, then it's not so bad. Okay, so how many of these cards do I draw? You may remember, you may not remember. It is written right here. The supplemental cards is 8. I'm sorry, 9. I read that wrong. It's 9. So we're going to draw 9 cards. So we take this deck and we just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then that gets added to these cards, which then gets shuffled. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle. Okay, so normally we would draw 6 cards, okay? So this is how it normally works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But they said for the first day, we're gonna draw 3 more. So there's 9. And these other cards go back into the draw pile. Now, what's gonna happen is we're gonna play cards from our hand. They're going to go into various discard piles based on whether they're primary or supplemental. The allies get to take a turn after our impulse ends. So after they do their impulse, well, actually before they do their impulse, we actually draw from this draw pile back up to our hand size. Okay, so we're always going to have a full hand unless the allies do stuff to make us discard. But when that deck runs out, we can actually keep playing. But if we ever run out of cards completely, or we pass, then that's when the day ends. So when the day ends, we're going to have a giant discard pile here and there. It's very important for me to point out that you can't keep cards from one day to the next. You either play all the cards in your draw pile in your hand, or you don't play them, and then you lose them. No matter what, they're going to the 2 discard piles. It just so happens that the primary ones always come back the next day. The supplemental ones had that wonky rule I just explained. So these cards are use them or lose them. So try to take the mentality that you have them, so let's use them. I don't see any advantage to passing early unless there's a very few situations where you're worried about the allies deploying reserves or something like that. But especially in the beginning game, you need to play. Play. Okay, so that wraps that up. Now, the December 16th has these special rules. So you can see for the first impulse, your hand starts with 9 cards instead of 6. You must play command cards until you get to 10. I'll explain that when we start playing. Play cards activate formation and as combat tactics cannot use deploy reserves command or command events. Okay, that's very important. Every card usually has a deploy reserves or command events action on it, but we're not allowed to use those. We are not allowed to move unless it's via a reinforced battle tactic, which I will get into in a second. It's a little loophole. But remember, it's only on the very first impulse. So after the first impulse, we are allowed to move. During attacks, the Allies does not get to draw cards for combat tactics. This is something that threw me off because I got so used to not drawing cards for them that when I was supposed to start drawing cards for them, I never did. And then after the first impulse, we drop down to a hand size of 6. So if we have 9 cards, we play 3. We're actually not going to get to draw any at all, but that's fine. Then throughout the rest of the day, these rules go away, but then these rules kick in. Well, actually, the whole day they're there. There's a traffic jam, so only one German unit may use a given bridge in a single activation. Others have to cross it as if it was an unbridged river, and so I'll talk about that. Deploy just one Allied reserve unit if the Allies do reserve command. I think I forgot about that one, so let me not forget that. Allied non-mechanized units move only 1 hex. This does not apply to a unit moving via reinforced combat. Okay, fair enough. Allied engineers do not blow bridges. And Allied artillery combat is not available. The core artillery combat occurs as described. And then there's some reserve units that are deployed by the 18th Corps card in addition to the 8th or 9A division cards, but must be deployed in the 8th Corps zone. Okay, that's getting a little deep in the rules that we haven't explained yet. But it's good to refresh your memory of them because these are things you have to remember on this first day that you'll never have to remember the rest of the game. And this game is long, and it's funny because these December 16 things can get you because you're so used to playing the other turns. All right, so it starts with us, and it's our impulse. So what do? Well, we skip the supply phase, right? So we are now on the command phase, and it gives you an example. But let's just look at our cards, and I'll show you what they can do. So I'm going to lay these out in front of the camera here. Yeah, you can see those pretty easily. And then I'm going to just lay this one sideways. Maybe scooch these a little forward. Okay, so just a quick reminder, these are primary cards, these are supplemental. They mean nothing during the actual game turn, okay? It doesn't matter if I'm playing a primary or supplemental, okay? Don't worry about that during the game turn, but when you discard the card, obviously they go into different discard piles. That's the important part. They primarily dictate, you know, how the cards come back into the game after you've played them. The primary cards, I can tell you, are generally core cards, whereas the supplementals they tend to do special things, and some of them are very, very myopic, meaning they focus on something very specific, or they can be really awesome and they're the entire army or something like that. We don't have any of those. These are 3 myopic ones. This one over here is an interesting one. It's not a primary, and it's a core card. Actually, quite interesting, in fact, that we have this one. Now, we have various core in a game. We have this one. We have the pink ones. We have these purple ones. We have these blue, orange, yellow, and way up there you can see there's red. There is 1 primary card for every core in your game. And if there was ever a new core that arrives as reinforcements, there will be new primary cards added to your hand, or your deck, I mean. So, for example, we don't see we actually might see them all. So here's the 30th, there's the pink, there's the purple, there's the orange, there's the red, there's the light blue, the yellow ones, these guys. There is no primary for this yet, but that's because we still have a deck of cards over here we have yet to draw, okay? But what I'm trying to tell you is that there's a primary card for every core unit, or a group of units in the game. This is a core card, but it's not the primary card. So I know I'm going to get to activate this particular core twice today, because I know that there's a primary card that does almost the same thing, and this is not primary. So that's the kind of information that you can use to your advantage. How much to your advantage? Well, that's, buyer's eye of the beholder thing. But I find this advantageous to be able to figure those kind of things out. Now, the next thing, there's a lot of text on these cards, but the key things you want to keep in mind are these numbers. That's your command value. We get to go up to 10. But what I also get to do is, let's say I'm going to play this card right here with a command value of 3. Then I get to do actions with all my units. I can move them, and I always get to attack, assuming I'm next to somebody. But the move is in addition to, I can move and attack, is what I'm trying to say. So let's say I'm going to attack somebody. Well, then I can play combat tactics to enhance the attack. So what you see here is the top portion is your command that you're using right now. That's what we need to do. We have to play one of these cards, and we're playing a command. So that's what this top portion is. This bottom portion is a combat tactic. So this card has dual functionality. You're either playing it as a command, or you're going to play it as a combat tactic. If you play it as a combat tactic, then it's supporting this particular core. You're not actually activating these core units at all. They're not going to do anything. You're just playing this card to support this one. Okay, does that make sense? That's the problem with doing videos, is nobody's there to say yes or no. Okay, it gets even wonkier because since this is a 3, if I want to support these guys in battle, I could say, okay, well, I'm going to just put all my deck in, and then we're going to have this combat tactic, we're going to have this one, and we're going to be like Oprah. You get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. It doesn't work that way. This 3 means that we can only play 3 combat tactics. If I played this one with a 1, that means I can only play 1 other combat tactic with this card, okay? And then it gets even wonkier because this 3 counts towards the 10 that we need to end our impulse. But if we play 3 cards, with it, this 2 and that 1 and that 2, it also goes towards the 10. So that's 5, 6, 7, that would be 8 points of my impulse if I did that. So those are things you have to keep in mind. I honestly don't know what the right strategy is. There was a part of me that was like, okay, I don't ever want to play combat tactics because I want to get as many commands in as I can. And I later realized combat tactics is sort of how you win this game. they can make or break whether you win a battle, and winning a battle is important. And sometimes you're going to lose a battle even when you thought you were going to win it. And let's just dive in some more, and I can get you there. Let's study the map, because I think that's the first thing we have to do to figure out our strategy. But you can at least see the cards. We can basically activate anybody we want. That's what these cards are telling us. And I'm looking specifically at these division cards. And this one says Reinforced Battle, which is a very valuable combat tactic on the first day. It's actually valuable any day, but this one in particular, it's very valuable. And this one says Artillery, which is interesting. This one says Combat Engineers, which I think we can take advantage of. Here's another Reinforced Battle. The Infantry Infiltration. These are all described on your player aids, and we'll get into those as we use them. But the Reinforced Battle one is, and the Combat Engineer. Those are the two that are jumping out at me as pretty sweet. So let's look at our situation. Okay. So you can see here along this river, we have some units. There's a blown bridge. And this unit is defending a town called Ardennes. So this town is being defended by this unit. I can tell you in my last campaign, I never defeated this unit. I tried too. Now, when you're attacking across a river, you get huge penalties, whether the bridge is there or not. When you do movement points, you can always cross a river, even if there's no bridge, but it's all of your movement points. You have to start on one end and you end on the other. You don't get to keep moving, nothing like that. There's also a rule where each hex side can only be crossed once. So let's say I had 3 units here. The first unit can cross, no problem. The other 2 units are not allowed to cross at all, because this hex side prevents those other 2 from coming. But this one could cross in addition to that one, because that's a different hex side. Okay, so rivers can be crossed many times, but only once from each hex side, if that makes sense. This blown bridge basically just means that you treat it like it's a river without a bridge. So yes, you can still cross it, but only 1 unit at a time. Okay, now there is a December 16th rule in play that even if this bridge was not blown up, you still can only cross 1 at a time. So you have to treat it as if the entire thing is just a river with no bridges at all, in a way. But that's just on, I need to check, is that on our first turn? No, that is every turn. In all of December 16th, that rule. So every bridge is got a traffic jam, okay? Now the Allies can normally blow up a bridge, but they can't do that either. That's, we're not allowed to play events. Which would fix the bridge. But so we're gonna basically have to treat these bridges as if they're all down. Okay, so this guy is a tough cookie. The towns allow them to absorb a hit. So if we ever did a hit to him, the town absorbs it. So we would have to do 2 hits to him before anything negative were to happen to this unit. So that can be difficult, because when you're attacking across a river, all of your strength gets cut in half. Now it is possible to move across here and there. And in fact, I did that last turn, but I still did not have luck taking him out. Now, when a unit moves, they move their movement points, and there's a terrain chart on the game board and on the player aid that tells you what the movement costs are. Here's the key things to understand. if there's a road, it's only ever one movement point as long as you're going along the road. If this, so this is considered a clear hex. This is considered woods. That's considered broken. And here you can see this is a clear hex with a town. So it's very important because the terrain is still clear, but the town is there. So both effects, both terrains, if you will, are adding together to whatever effect that causes. So this guy is on broken terrain, but he's also a town. So, sorry about that. So every unit exercises a zone of control around it. Okay, so just one hex in all directions around it. The so this unit is exerting zone of control on him, and he's exerting zone of control on him. Now, here's the deal. If you move into someone's zone of control, no big deal. You're allowed to do that. But you're never allowed to move from a zone of control to another zone of control. Whether it's this guy's zone of control, or if it was another unit, like here. Nope. What's going on? Oh yeah, right here. So this guy is in his zone of control. If I moved him there, that's a rule breaking thing because I moved into his zone of control. Can't do it. So these two guys have what they call a filled or a closed gap. There's no gap for the Germans to break through. And so they're preserving the gap right now. His exerting zone of control here, he's exerting zone of control there. It's like a wall, if you will. And no German unit's allowed to move through that wall. So that's an important, very important concept. And when we're trying to decide our strategy for this first turn, that's some of the things I'm factoring in is how can I bust, like if I can blow this unit out of the water, look, I just created this huge gap that I can pour my units through. And that's the key thing that I'm looking at, right? But can I do it? That's another question. So here you can see a unit on a blown bridge. This unit can not, for example, move here because, again, there's gap control going on. This guy has control here, this guy has control there. So we do have some German units that start next to him, but they would be attacking across the bridge. Same with this German unit. It could move here and attack him, but it would also be attacking across water. So there's huge penalties that happen with those. You may still win, but it may not be the best thing in the world. Here we go. We got a unit that has an improvement position, which basically acts like a town. The improvement marker will, I'm sorry. I need to zoom out a little. The improvement marker here will absorb hits. So I don't mean to belabor things, but let's get to this unit here. This is a very powerful unit. The trick with them is I struggle with getting them across the river. I struggled mightily, in fact, with getting them across the river because of the log jam and everything. But this is a very, very powerful unit. The other thing is everybody has deployment zones that they have to stick with. So the 30th Corps here is in the German 7th Army, so they can go from the bottom of the map up to this squiggly line that you see here. That little squiggly line is all the further north these units can go. These gray units here can't go south of this squiggly line, so these three units can't go down this way to get back up. They're not allowed to cross this line ever until December 20th. Then the line goes away. But for now, they're stuck staying on the north side of the line. And you can see this goes all the way up to near the top of the map. So these guys are meant to stay in the mid-band of the map. So yes, we want to push through. I cannot go south to get across the river. I have to either go north to get across the river, or I have to come through straight the hard way, okay? And that's the same story going all the way up. I think the only key thing to point out up here is that the river stops. And so we have clear roads that go straight through, so we can start attacking up here with a lot more impunity. Now, there is a bridge here, and you can see that I marked the bridge because that traffic jam rule applies even when we're crossing this bridge up here. So only one unit could ever cross this bridge if they want to come up and do some damage up here. The rules do state clearly that these bridges are Allied bridges, and these blown up bridges are actually German bridges. So if I were ever to repair them, these actually are German controlled bridges. Now, why do we care? The only reason we care, well, actually on December 16th, which is today, we don't care at all. But in future turns, we're going to care because of fuel. Fuel and communication can be traced through bridge hexes if you control them, but if the enemy does, then you're out of luck, okay? All right, so I do have the card for these purple units. I really do want to do something with the purple units, but right now I'm going to do something with these yellow units because the yellow units don't have to worry about bridges, and we can maybe be a little bit more effective with them. The problem with the yellow units and the bridges, or the non-bridges, is as you can see here, the Allies have pushed a bit deep, so we do have to deal with him. And the reinforced battle is not very helpful in this situation. Because what reinforced battle is that you can take a... So we're going to activate these yellow guys, right? But reinforced battle allows us to take somebody else and that's not being activated and move them to join the battle. So it could be this orange unit here, for example, can move to join the battle. So that's what reinforced battle does. All right, so let's show you here. We're going to do the first Panzer Corps card, and it says there's a special ground freeze, okay? We're not allowed to do any special or events for turn 16, period. Germans can deploy all Corps reserves. So we could deploy this reserve because see that yellow band at the top? That's from our Corps, okay? So we actually have one unit that's available for deployment. However, if we deploy that unit, that's our entire action. So we just spent 3 command points just to deploy one unit. That's not a good economy. Here, assign 2 reinforcement points. Now you can see here that doesn't happen until turn 20. This is if our units are damaged. This is how you heal, okay? Activate all units in the Corps. That's what we're planning on doing. And then this event is an awesome event, except we can't do it. Not on the first day. December 16th, there's no events allowed. And yeah, we do get to do this. Now, here's the other thing that's crazy. We're not allowed to move on the first day. So actually, the reinforced battle probably will help us. No one's allowed to move unless it's through reinforced battle. And reinforced battle, remember, is a combat tactic. And so the only way the tactic works is you're calling another unit to move and support you in your attack. So that's the issue here, is that nobody can move. So the yellow units here, 1, 2, and 3, are the only ones that can really attack because they're the only ones adjacent to somebody. So if we activate this Corps, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to attack 1, 2, 3. Now, can I move with any of them? The answer is no. Now, I can move away from him. That is allowed. And the movement points is over on the terrain guide. And then you have to pay a 1 movement point penalty because we're in somebody's zone of control. And if you leave their zone of control, you have to pay a +1 movement point. Now that makes no sense. We want to win the game, not retreat. So now you might be wondering, well, can I move here? No, because first of all, you can't move. But even if you could move, you're in somebody's zone of control. You can't move into somebody else's zone of control or even the same one. So, so we can declare an attack and say these three guys are attacking him. Then we can say, okay, I'm going to play a reinforced battle. Okay, so this little combat tactic is going to be added to the attack. And remember, we have a 3 here, and that 3 means we can play 3 combat tactics along with this command. So I played 1 so far of the 3. And so the combat tactic is going to allow me to take any unit and move them in such a way that they can join us. And they have to stay together. So I can't like split them between 2 different units, things like that. And so what you can see here is we have these guys that can move 5 spaces, and this one can move 4. So there is an opportunity to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's not going to work. Hold on. Let me think this through. All right, so let me help you, because it's actually going to help me too. This player right here, German Events and Tactics, we just played Reinforced Battle. So as you can see here, Reinforced Battle says select 1 active or inactive stack. Okay, just 1 stack. That did not move or attack in the current activation that could reach the combat in a single movement action to participate in the combat. If defending, you have to move in with the defending units. If attacking, the attack stack unit stack moves adjacent to the hex under attack if not already there. Obey stacking limits. The and then of course if you're a German defender, which we're not. So I think that means, and this is what I was looking up, is I can pick 1 stack, like this one, and I can say I'm going to reinforce, and what I would do is I would just put these guys there, and then this one here. So I was able to split them up. That's what I was looking for. So the cardinal rule was whatever stack I selected has to end up adjacent to the unit under attack. Okay? So normal procedure is that the allies would get to draw a card, but that's not the case on December 16th. And let me take you through a battle. So there's, in the player aid here, combat procedure, you can see there's an allied attack, and then there's a German attack. And so we follow this procedure. So we declare a target and attacking units. We did that. Then we play combat tactics. You may notice I did that. Now there's one other thing I want to do. This unit has a improvement marker. The improvement markers are pretty nasty. Well, they absorb a hit, so they're not dangerous to us, but they are troublesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play combat engineers. So this is another 1 point. Okay. So we played our combat tactics. We draw 1 allied command card to check to see if there's hidden defenders, undetected defenders. We don't do that. Remember, that's the special rule for December 16th, but normally you do. Then we're going to draw combat chits, calculate hits, apply losses, etc. So then what we do now is we just follow this down to here, and we're going to draw combat chits. So the chits is how many of these are we drawing, and whether they help us or not is pure luck. But we did some things to try to help us, and one of the things that I did is I played German combat engineers, as you may recall, and we get to add 1 to our strength, which is good, and then we remove an IP marker, which is an improvement marker. So our combat engineers was able to blow up his improvement marker, so he's not as badass as we thought he was. So anyways, I'm gonna recite to you how this plays out. We could go step by step through the book, but I think we're at a point now where we just need to do it. So you count the pips here. So you see how this guy has 2 pips? So that means the chit draw is a minimum of 2. And then the maximum is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You count all your units that are not bracketed, okay? That's a very important thing. Once you start taking damage, some of these will get brackets, but none of them have brackets right now. So it's a 2 minimum, 9 maximum, but then there's some more modifiers. Are any of your units elite? Well, how do you know if you're elite? These little red dots, see how the steps are red? Those little red pips means we're elite. So we go up to 10 now. We can draw 10 chits. So 2 minimum, 10 maximum. The next thing you check for is, do any of them have 3 or more pips? And the answer is no. So we stop at 10, but that's not over. This is like a Monty Hall and let's make a deal. There's a nice little procedure here. So you get +1 for every combat tactic played by the player. So we played 2 combat tactics. We played combat engineer, we played reinforced battle. So in doing so, that becomes 12 now. We can draw 12 chits. And you can see here 1 for every attacking unit that has 1 or more elites, and then 3 or 4 steps. And then you get bonuses if they're out of supply, or if they're isolated, or if they played a screen. None of those apply to us. So minimum of 2, maximum of 11. So first thing you do is you draw your 2. No matter what, you draw the 2. So you just go into your draw bag or your cup or whatever, and you pull out two of these. And if this one was blue, I would throw this back in the cup, and then there's a different procedure that happens, but it's not. Okay, so what you do is you always look at both sides, and then you apply the one that applies to you. Now, it is possible that both sides apply to you, and then you apply the one that has the P on it. See that little P there? So if we're greater than 7 to 1 odds, and also greater than 4 to 1 odds, so both sides are true, we apply this side with the P. It's always the priority, okay? So how do we resolve these? Well, I can assure you these start to get second nature pretty quickly. That part I like about this game. But like right there where you say only attacker combined arms, blah, blah, blah. Everything that's on your combat chit is in the player aid, which is a beautiful player aid. So here you can see only attacker or defender combined arms. It applies if only one side has both armor plus infantry or mechanized infantry. And so it gives you a nice description of what that means. So let's look at our units over here. Maybe zoom in a bit. Okay, so this unit here is an armor unit, okay? But he's only armor, so he's not a combined arms. Now you might be thinking, okay, this one for the German is also an armor unit, and that's true. But this one is a combined arms unit. And how do we know that? It's because See, that's the armor symbol, but that's the infantry symbol. So both symbols are on the token. So this is a picture of a tank, yes, but he's accompanied with an infantry battalion. So he's a combined arms situation. Whereas this one over here is just armor, okay? And then he is just armor. In fact, he's like a recon. Okay, so with that being said, the attacker is the only one with combined arms. So this becomes a hit to the defender. So we're going to put that over there and resolve it later. Now this one says, are we greater than 7-to-1 odds or greater than 4-to-1 odds? So here we have to look at this again. He has a strength of 3. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 11, 13, and 10 is 23, and 2 is 25. So we have 25, he has 3. So we have 8-to-1 odds. We're a little better than 8-to-1s, but you have to always just round to the nearest whole number, right? So 8-to-1 odds, and that is greater than 7-to-1 odds. So we apply 2 more hits to him, and we don't take a hit. Okay, that's what that A-1 is. We get to cancel a hit. All right, so we now have 3 hits on this guy, which is awesome sauce, by the way. Now, how do we know if we should... So this, we drew the minimum number of chits, and now we have to decide how many more are we going to draw. We can draw up to 11. We've drawn 2 already, so that means we can draw 9 more if we wanted. This is the hardest part of the game. And the other thing that's hard about it is we've done 3 hits already. So you may be thinking, well, hey, it only has 2 steps on it. So isn't that enough to kill it? No, it's not. In fact, I can assure you that 3 hits is not going to kill this guy. In fact, what he's going to do is he's going to retreat twice and then take 1 damage. And then he'll be alive with 1 step left. So we need to do 4 hits to this guy. Now, how do I know that? Well, I know that because I've done combat a couple times now. But there is a chart in this game, and we'll go through it. But there's a procedure you follow for resolving step losses, and that's the procedure he would follow. So we need 1 more hit on the guy. Now, how many more chits should I draw? Because if I draw 2, I may not hit with those 2. It looks like we're going to hit every time because I'm getting lucky, but these are some lucky draws that you're seeing here. I've had some very, very not lucky draws. So I don't want to draw 9 more because 11 chits seems like overkill. I only need 1 more hit, and I'm running the risk that I'm going to get hit. And if I get hit, I can absorb it once, so that's a nice insurance card. But here's the other thing. I may draw a chit that's going to absorb one of his hits. So then I'm going to go do even less hits to him. So this is the nerve-wracking part of this game. A lot of luck involved here. No dice, of course, but I think I'm going to draw 4 more. And I'm already thinking I should draw more than 4, but I think I'm going to draw 4 more. And let's see how it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and yes, I had a blue one, but I have a system that they fall out of my hand in a certain order, and this was going to be the last one. But this one would cause anything that was in this cup. So these, once they're used, are going to go in this cup. They don't go back into this cup. The blue chips are the trigger for when those go back in. That's basically what that is. All right, so I drew 4 more, and you're going to start seeing why I sometimes might need more. But this one is air power. Well, nobody has any air power, so neither German or Allied, so that one leaves. It doesn't apply. Then we have broken or clear. He is in broken terrain. I'm pretty sure. Yep. Now, if they're on the west wall, you still see other terrain with it. Oh, and this question came up when I played. You can see here there's broken terrain and woods in the same. You use whatever one is the majority. And I know I have it covered up with all my stuff, but it has a real nice chart here. And you can see clear, broken woods, etc. And then it tells you how much movement for infantry versus mechanized all the way down. The only thing that's missing from here is the combat bonuses that you get. There's no combat bonuses for broken, by the way. And so there we have it. We have our 4th hit. So I only needed to technically draw 2 more. But here you can see is an artillery one, attacker artillery, we don't have it. Defender artillery, they don't have it, but look at that. If they did, they would have gotten a D-1. You see that? That would have absorbed one of those hits. But we got lucky, they had no artillery. And we put on one more hit for good measure, we flanked them. Okay? It's not a 1 hex attack, it's a flank attack. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits to them, and we actually absorbed a hit, which never happened. I can't tell you enough how lucky we got. I've had many bad battle outcomes. But anyways, so what do we do if there's 5 hits? Well, it has a general procedure explaining things. If he was in a town, he ignores a hit. If he's in an improved position, remember we destroyed that improved position, he would have ignored another hit. If he's in a west wall, but only if they're German, then you get to ignore a hit. So he's not German, of course. And then, of course, there's extra rules if the defender was dispersed, out of supply, or out of fuel. Okay. Now, getting back to this. Defending units, this is letting us know that if we're the defender, we get to either retreat 1 hex to satisfy a hit, or 2 hexes and become dispersed to satisfy 2 hits. All other hits must be satisfied by step loss. That's if we're defending. Okay? If we're attacking, we can, the first hit incurred by attacking units must be applied, then 2 more. But that's if we're taking a hit as the attacker. But remember, we're going up against the AI, and so this is how we resolve the AI. We have to use this chart down here. So first thing it says is if they've retreated 2 hexes, they lose a step, no matter what. Okay, but we skip that because he hasn't retreated yet. Here, if the hits is greater than the steps, or equal, in the defending units, retreat 1 hex. So you can see here we have 2, 3, 4, we have 5 hits. The number of steps on the defending units is 2, if you remember. So he's going to retreat 1 hex. Well, where does he go? So the first things first is, see that little blue arrow? If he were to retreat, that's the primary direction he wants to go. Okay? The black thick arrow is the primary direction he wants to go if he's attacking and he gets to advance after combat because he's winning. The skinny arrow is where he wants to go as a secondary objective if he can't go that way. But he's retreating, so he wants to follow the blue line. Now, he couldn't, let's say the blue line was facing this way, he can't do that because we have zone of control in there. And there's a chart here for retreating that has a whole bunch of priorities for retreating. And so I can tell you with certainty that his top priority is he wants to retreat somewhere that is not in a German zone of control. Well, we have zone of control here, and we have zone of control here. The only place we don't have zone of control is here, which, oh, by the way, is where he wants to go. So this is a no-brainer. He's moving to there. That was actually a very easy retreat to do. Okay. So when he did that retreat, that actually caused one of our damages to be mitigated. So now we have 4 more damage to mitigate. So we go back to the top. Has he retreated twice? No. Is the number of damage still more than the number of steps? Yes, because we have 4 damage and he only has 2 steps. So we come back over to here and he's going to retreat one more time, and he wants to go to this location, and he will, because he always follows the blue arrow if he can. That's top priority. So he goes to there. Now, when he's retreated twice, he automatically becomes dispersed. Now, it's just him. It's not the unit that he's with, in case you're wondering. And we can designate that. But trust me, he's not going to live long enough for it to matter. So we absorbed another hit. So now I have to just absorb 3 more hits. And as you may remember, if he is retreated 2, lose a step for every remaining hit not yet applied. All right, well, there's 3 of them, and he only has 2 steps on him. So this is easy peasy. He takes 1 hit and then another hit, and we have our first eliminated unit in the game. Well done. Okay, but we're not done. So now we get to do advance after combat. So if the attack hex is vacated and we did not disperse ourselves, then we can advance into the hex regardless of enemy zone of control. So basically it's free movement. And then mechanized units can go 2 hexes as long as they did a 2 hex retreat or was eliminated. The first must be the vacated hex, and then after that we can go anywhere we want, as long as it's not across the unbridged river. The second may be any hex, but when deviating from the path of retreat, you may not move from an enemy-controlled hex to another, may not cross a river, may not enter a forest unless entering along a road. So that's where his path of retreat is important. You have to follow his path of retreat if you want a free ride, meaning you can go through enemy zones of control. But if you try to deviate from that, you can. There's nothing stopping you other than you have to be mindful of enemy zones of control, and you have to be mindful of rivers and things of that nature. So let's talk through this. We definitely want to advance. We are allowed to advance. We're just not allowed to move on December 16th. Well, let me make sure. I'm pretty sure we get to advance. Yep, it says flat out in the rules, they may attack and advance. Okay, so the infantry units only get to move 1 space, because only the mechanized units get to advance twice. So what I can do here is, there's several of them, but like this stack here can just move to there if we wanted. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move these 2 units to there. Okay? And that's all they can do. They can't advance anymore. Now the mechanized can move twice. So we can go in here and we can move 1 more time, and that's what I will do. So I will move twice, and that positions me to take this guy on if I need to. And I can move twice with this guy too. So I think I'm going to move and then go down this way, because we have an allied unit down here that needs to be taken care of, and he might be able to support that battle. Now, every other unit that did not activate can get an improvement position marker. So I could, for example, do that. It's a silly thing because I don't have any fear of being attacked in this early turns. The allies are being surprised right now, so most of the command cards they have right now are not going to make them attack us. So it's a little silly, and you're going to lose that improvement marker if you ever move or attack, which is what the Germans are meant for, is to do that. Okay, so we are done with our move and attack, and I would consider that to be quite successful. Now, just to recap, we've spent 5 points. The first impulse is 10. So our impulse is not over. We can actually continue and I still have 5 more points to spend. Now, I don't get to draw back up to my hand size yet, because you don't do that until the impulse is over. So I have to spend my 5 points using the remaining cards that are in my hand. And I can tell you with certainty, one of the ones I want to do is this purple one. I'm just, with us not being able to move, that's the thing I'm concerned about. Because not being able to move is very difficult. Do I have, no I don't. I do have artillery, I have infantry infiltration. See, we're not allowed to move, folks, so this is actually a difficult first turn. So, I mean, let's take it through. If I were to attack this guy, I'm only attacking with 1 unit. This is suicide. I could attack this guy with 2 units, which are very beefed up, but trust me, this guy is like Superman. He's in a forest, he's in a town. I mean, there's just nothing that goes our way. These 2 are very nice, large units, and you would think they can tear them apart, but they don't. I learned my lesson on that one. Now, these guys look like a really nice large stack against just 1 unit, except he's in a town, and we're fighting across a bridge. So that's a double strike against us. All of our strength is cut in half. Okay, if we move up, I told you I was excited to activate these guys, but we got a similar situation. This is a unit with an improved position. That by itself is already formidable. But then we only have 1 unit here, and then we have a stack of 3 that are going to get reduced in half. So, so yeah, it gets a little tricky. And we do have a nice situation here where there's a big stack and a smaller stack against just 1 guy. This actually is a nice candidate. And then we have a situation here where this guy can attack there, but if I had a reinforced battle or something, I could have him join, even though, yeah, so that's another important point. Any division or corps, any unit, period, let's revert it to that. Any unit who activates on this impulse is not allowed to activate again until the 3rd impulse, okay? So they can't activate anymore in the 1st impulse. They also can't activate at all in the 2nd impulse, okay? And we're talking about our impulse when it's our turn. However, even though they can't activate, you can still use them as reinforced battle, and you can use combat tactics to get them to help you. So, so that's one way to sort of get around that restriction. So, like I said, we have a nice situation here. We also have another one up here where these 2 units could try to attack this guy, and oh look, he's a 2 victory point hex. He's a strong guy though, and we only have 2 to 1, whereas down here we have 3, 7, 10, 14 to 3, which is what, 4 to 1. I'm thinking Boy, this is actually a tough decision. 2-to-1 odds is not that good. So I think I am going to activate these blue guys. So that would be this card right here. And we're going to activate them, activate all units in core, right? We're going to attack. That's the whole goal. So that's a 2 command point card. So that makes it at 7 so far for ending the impulse. And we are going to attack this unit. I don't have the engineers anymore, so I can't destroy their improved position. But what I can do is I get to play 2 cards with it, right? And so I'm going to play these 2 cards. Now, bear in mind, this was the card I played, and see how it has a 2 right here? See that 2? That means I can play 2 cards, okay? But this 2 and this 2 counts as 4 points for the impulse. So if you're keeping track at home, I just told you I was at 7, and this would make us 9, and this would make us 11. So the impulse is going to end after I do this attack. And I'm actually quite okay with it because this inability to move sort of sucks. So I want to get to the point where we can move, and I'm saving my purple card for when we can move. And I think that's pun intended, that is the better move. Okay. So I am adding infantry infiltration and fixed artillery. Okay, so what are those things? What do they mean? I'm glad you asked. They're all right here. Infantry infiltration can only be done by an attacker. And remember, the German events and tactics are different than the Allies. Even though they could be named the same, the Allies get different things. Like their engineers do different things than our engineers do. Okay, so play if attacking with at least 1 infantry or mechanized infantry unit. The defender is considered flanked. Okay, normally you're not flanked unless you have 3 units next to the attacker in 3 different hexes. But now we can consider it flanked. Then the fixed artillery is just, we are attacking from the west wall. We're within the 3 spaces, so that's not a worry. So our FAR number, remember the FAR number? And then basically, if we draw an artillery chit from the cup, it will count, because we're going to have artillery support. So that's what we're going to do. Now, they would normally draw a card, but they don't get to. So let's look at the situation. So, as I was saying, they normally wouldn't get flank, but they're going to because of the tactic. Here's the west wall, and their artillery can go 3 range, and we're attacking right next to them. So there's no worries there. He has a 2 pips on him, so that's a minimum of 2 chits. And then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is an elite unit, which makes it 5. So we get to draw 5 chits. So it's 2 minimum, 5 maximum, and there's no 3 or more pips or anything like that. But it's not just 5 maximum. We just played 2 combat tactics, so it's actually 7 maximum. So 2 minimum, 7 maximum, and here we go. So I'm gonna draw 2. All right, so we got to resolve these now. Is the defender elite? No. That would require a red pip, okay? Is the defender green? No. That requires a white pip. So this is actually out. His pip is black, just to confirm for you. And so here's an example. This is a normal pip because it's black. That's an elite pip because it's red. And there's a green pip because it's white. Okay. All right, so now, is this a large attack or a December 16th attack? It is a December 16th attack, so that's a hit. Boy, I wish every day was December 16th when this comes. All right, so we got one hit on the guy, but all it's going to do is remove his disruption marker, nothing else. So that's not very helpful. We can go up to, I said 9. And this guy needs at least 1, 2, 3, 4 more hits. Yes, we did 1. We need 4 more. So I'm going to draw all the way up to the 9. I really want to take this guy out. It's very important, taking him out for, lobster, maybe a walk on the beach. We definitely want to take him out. So let's do, I know 7 more is a lot, but let's do it. All right. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's the 7th, but it's the last one. So then what we do is we just take this cup and throw it in, and then these guys are all going to go into the cup. All right, so we know for sure he's got 1 hit so far. Is he in the city or forest? If you don't mind, I'm just going to look real quick without... He's in a broken terrain. So it's definitely not city or forest. He's in woods and broken. So this means we're taking a hit and he's taking a hit. Is it a 1 hex attack? No. Now, remember we did the infiltration, the infantry infiltration command? Even if it was a 1 hex attack, an infantry infiltration command cancels this. So, but that's not the case for us. Are we flanking? Yes, we are, because we did infantry infiltration. So, bing, bing, bing. Okay. Are we greater than 3 to 1? Well, let's check. I don't think we are. We are, because it was 14 to 3, right? So we're 4 to 1. So yes, we are. So he gets another hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another flank attack. I'll take it. Defender artillery, no, but I can tell you we have artillery, so boom, he gets a hit. Greater than 6 to 1, no it's not. Is there a combat engineer? Nope. Greater than 1.5 to 1, yes there is. So we're taking 2 hits here. So that's not good. But we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits to him. I think we did our job. So we apply his hits first, and the 7 hits, I can tell you the first hit is, this is destroyed. That's 1. So now we got 6 more hits to go. Well, we already know the drill. He's going to retreat twice and then take 2 hits. Well, the first retreat is across the river, and yes, there's no penalty for him. And then the second hit retreat is to go up here. And then he would get disrupted, but then the 3rd and 4th retreat would destroy him. So, 3rd and 4th hit, I meant to say. So, he's definitely getting hit across the board. Now, we got to do 2 hits to our units, which is not going to be pretty, because what we can do is we can take 1 hit and then disperse all of our units. If we do that, that means we don't get to advance after combat. Or we can advance after combat, and that means, though, we have to take 2 hits. So I know it sounds silly, but not taking 2 hits is actually quite desirable, especially considering the way the hit rules work is this unit, let's say I take a hit with this unit, and I probably will, the next hit has to be one of these. I can't, you have to alternate hexes. So I couldn't even hit 2 units in this stack. If I hit 1 unit in this stack, I have to hit this one because you have to alternate between the stacks, okay? So this unit will take a hit, and then I guess I'm going to go ahead and hit the top unit here. So those are my 2 hits. It's important for me to be able to advance, because what you're going to see here is I'm going to advance. And here's the special rule for December 16th. The Allied engineers are not going to blow up bridges. So right now we would have to do a blow up check to see if that bridge got blown up. It's not blown up. So, so we're free and clear. So then this guy's going to advance, and so is this one. But this guy is going to advance twice and get across the bridge. Then what I'm going to do is flip this over to show that the Germans now control the bridge. That's what that means. We don't have to keep this here anymore per se, but it's a nice way of showing that we control the bridge. And not only did we make it across, but as you can see, we actually created a gap. We have an ability to trace a path all the way to the other edge of the map, and there's no zone of control blocking us. So we just created a gap. Now that's actually our goal in this game, is to do that, because one of the things going through my mind is, since December 16th is a day that they cannot blow up bridges, you actually want to sort of secure these bridges if you can. But now the reason why I only moved one unit across is because that rule where we have the traffic jam is still applying. Only one unit is allowed to cross a bridge. Every other unit is not allowed to cross. They have to follow the same rules as if because this is all the same river hexide. Now, if I had a unit down here, it could have crossed, but these were all trying to cross from the same place. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we just ended our turn, and then it's going to be the Allies' turn. However, I'm very tired. It is extremely late at night, and I need to get to bed. So I will end this here, get this uploaded, and then I will see you tomorrow for the Allied first impulse. So we're ending our impulse. The only thing that we need to do is we count our cards, and you can see I have 3 cards here. And the hand limit is 6, I believe, from here on out. Yes, it is. So we're just going to draw 3 more cards. And this one's an awesome sauce card. That one right there. And so look, we got another purple card, so we need to be mindful of that. So lots of really nice juicy things. This is one that's interesting. This one can only be done on the 17th. Today is the 16th. And remember what I told you? These supplemental cards go in a discard pile, and we're not going to get it on the 17th. So this card, we're not going to be able to play for that event. I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but just pointing that out. Okay, so it's going to be the Allied turn, and thank you for watching. Stay awesome. I hope this was informative. I know there's a lot of initial rules we have to clog through, but hopefully you will start to see this flesh out. And I can't promise you I have great strategies to win the game. I did not win at all at this game yet. But I'm going to at least show you some cool stuff and how to sequence through battles. And I hope you find it helpful. Thank you.